Alright, so now we're looking at number 4 from the triangle congruency shortcut proofs, and we're going to try to show that triangle PQS is congruent to triangle PRS. Let's look at our givens first. Number 1, we're given that PS is the angle bisector of angle QPR. We're also given that segment PQ is congruent to segment PR. Again, those are given. So now let's come over here, let's mark our givens. Let's mark the first one as segment PQ is congruent to segment PR. And let's investigate this next one. It says segment PS, this segment, is the angle bisector of angle QPR. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us, if it is the angle bisector, that the angle formed here is going to be congruent to the angle formed here. But this given doesn't let me step right into this. It sets me up and allows me to make that statement. But I still need to include it in my proof, because all I know now is that this is the segment, or the angle bisector of QPR, and I could use that to make the follow-on statement, which is angle QPS is congruent to angle RPS. And we'll have to put that in our proof later, so we'll put it in blue for now. So let's just look at what else we can find. What we're trying to prove is that triangle PQS is congruent to triangle PRS. We have one side already. We have an angle that we'll need to include in our proof. And what can we do to prove these two triangles congruent? Do we know anything about this angle and this angle? I can't really make any definite statement. This segment QS and segment SR, can't make any definite statement there. It looks like they might be congruent, but we're not positive yet. Nothing that we have will let us make that statement. But we can state that segment PS is congruent to itself. And we can say that because of the reflexive property. So the items that we've introduced in our brainstorming session over here are angle QPS is congruent to angle RPS, and that's because of the definition of angle bisector. We've also discovered that segment PS is congruent to segment PS, and that's because of the reflexive property. So now when I look at my triangle here, let's see if we have enough. I have a side here, angle here, and a side here. I have a side here, angle here, and a side here. So I have side, angle, side is congruent to side, angle, side, and that is one of my congruency shortcuts. So I've got everything I need now to justify that triangle PQS is congruent to triangle PRS. Now let's build it into our proof. Let's make our logical flow. The first blue mark that we used, the first brainstorming we used in our process was that angle QPS is congruent to angle RPS. We could say that because in our given we were told that segment PS is the angle bisector. So by the definition of angle bisector, we know that these two angles must be congruent. The next step that we came up with was segment PS is congruent to segment PS. We know that because of our reflexive property. And at that point, we went back and looked at our triangle, and we established that we have a side, an angle, and a side. Side, angle, side. If they are corresponding and congruent, that is a shortcut that we can use to determine congruency of triangles. So at this point, we can state triangle PQS is congruent to triangle PRS. And the reason that we used was side, angle, and side. And we had one side came from our given in step 1. The angle came from our step 2. And the other side came from our step 3. So this is where we get our information from to state side, angle, side. It's important to remember too that this proof, during our brainstorming, we came up with a couple true statements and we used all of them. During your brainstorming, you may come up with more true statements than you need to do your proof. So you don't have to put everything we come up with over here into the proof body, into the 2-column proof. It just so happens that this time, the first 2 that we came up with are 2 that we needed to be able to prove using side, angle, side that triangle PQS is congruent to triangle PRS.